This is ever the era of remakes, remasters, and re-releases. I'm all for that. Bringing back Alex Kidd, one of Sega's original mascots and one of the pioneers that, Sega put out there for platforming to compete with Mario. Let's do the damn thing. Let's get into this review. Before we kick this video off, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Merge Games for providing the review copy of Alex Kidd in Miracle World DX for the Nintendo Switch. I played this originally on my Master System back in the day. Now, I wasn't born in 1986, so I wasn't there when it initially came out. I played this back in the 90s. So, growing up, I was a Nintendo kid, but we still had the Sega Master System, we had the Sega Genesis. And, there was just a certain flavor that you got that was just different. It's like, how you can get a cheeseburger, right? I'm going to use a cheeseburger analogy. You know how you can get a cheeseburger from McDonald's and it's like, I'm loving it. You know what I mean? That's what Nintendo was. But then Sega was like going to Wendy's. You got more meat. You got more flavor to you. You had more oomph. You know what I mean? So that's kind of been my experience when it came to playing Sega games. And, I was used to playing Mario and Zelda and such growing up. But then when I got the chance to play, Wonder Boy and Alex Kidd and Shinobi and all the amazing, super amazing Sega games, it was just a different flavor that I just really liked, and it just resonated with me. So here we are, decades later, 30 something years later, and I'm playing Alex Kidd in Miracle World DX. And as I'm playing it, I'm like, this is the same game that I played back in the day. Now, granted, it's got some graphical enhancements here and there, but it's not that much fundamentally different. And in this video, we're going to be talking about what I like, what I don't like, whether or not you should pick it up, and the usual stuff. Before we do all that though, I'm Mekel Kasanova, Hawaii content creator and host of Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova Podcast, available on every major outlet where you can listen to me interview all the different people in the gaming industry, the tech industry, content creators, voice actors, celebrities, and so much more. Make sure you go check it out. Also, while you're at it and you're here, you're watching this video, if you haven't subbed or hit the notification bell, what are you doing with your life? Go ahead and sub to the channel, ding the notification bell, that way you stay up to date on all the latest crazy content we have on this channel. And if you want to support what we do have channel memberships and Patreon. Both are available with links down below. Get you early access and input on things that we're doing, upcoming projects, and behind the scenes, and so much more. All that out the way, let's go ahead and get into this review of Alex Kidd in Miracle World DX. Story. Alex Kidd returns home to find his village taken over by the villainous Janken the Great that ended up defeating King Thunder of the city of Redaxian and ended up kidnapping both Prince Egil and Egil's fiancée, Princess Laura. Alex finds out that he is a lost son of King Thunder and sets out to save the kingdom from Janken the Great. Gameplay. If you played the 1986 original, then you have played this one, and it's still as balls-bustingly hard as it was back then. There's absolutely nothing that has been changed in this remake other than the option to go between the new graphics of the remake and the original Sega Master System version, and the option of selecting whether Alex grabs onigiri, hamburgers, or fish and chips for the end of the level and post-level cutscene. Alex can walk, jump, and punch his way through the various levels with needing to platform and take down enemies and blocks that stand in your way. Alex can punch various blocks that either block the way or that have either a star, question mark, or skull design on them, which yield various boons and downsides. The blocks with stars on them usually hold money that can be used at various shops to buy items and lives to make your adventure that much easier, even though it doesn't make it dramatically easier. Blocks with question marks can either yield items that you can use to increase your attacks or defenses, money, or it can yield a Grim Reaper that will kill you if it touches you, and it itself is not killable. The final block is the one with the skull on it, and when hit, will have you stunned for several seconds, which can be life or death if there are enemies nearby or if you are being chased by a Grim Reaper. You need to punch enemies to get through the levels, with you needing to avoid other enemies like the flames, thunderclouds, and will kill you in one hit. The general gameplay has you die in one hit, and so you will want to be incredibly careful as you progress through the levels. By default, you have 3 lives per continue with unlimited retries. However, if you lose all 3 lives, then any items and money that you acquire will be lost, which can make a lot of the late game content incredibly difficult to get through. At shops, you can find items such as the ring, which allows you to throw flaming punches to fly across the screen that can destroy blocks and enemies that are lined up, a broom, which will allow you to temporarily hover throughout the level, avoiding the need to platform, a bubble shield that kills any enemies you run into, and several more. You can also purchase level-specific vehicles such as the pedal helicopter and the motorcycle. The pedal copter is incredibly useful and can allow you to breeze through levels insanely fast, especially the platform-heavy levels, while the motorcycle can be utterly useless, and it isn't often clear which blocks will and won't be destroyed if you run into them with the bike. Each of these vehicles can be destroyed if you run into a non-destroyable object and cannot be gotten again in a level except for at the start of the specific levels. The last part of this game that is both unique for its time and even to this day very unique is a Janken Pon, better known as rock, paper, scissors. When you reach the end of a certain level, you will run into one of the 3 generals of the main bad guy. Each of the 3 villains is based on rock, paper, and scissors, and will always gravitate to using one over the other, which is also in their design, as their preferred method of throwing. The key to beating them is looking at the fact that they will always linger for several seconds on their decided throw, giving you enough time to select what trumps their throw with your own. Once you beat them, you will have to go on to a normal boss fight, which will require you to hit them several times and then collect the onigiri to complete the level. New additions to the game are new levels and a few new modes like classic mode and boss rush mode that you can dive into alongside the normal game. Graphics. The upgrade from the 1986 original to this remake are substantial, to say the least. The game uses the pixelated style of River City Girls and densely detailed backgrounds and environments. Alex's new sprite looks amazing when compared to what it used to look like, and animates fluidly with his trailing scarf and all. You can change back to the original game's graphics with the press of a button, which will also change the music back to the originals as well. In many ways, there isn't a real reason to stay in the original game's visuals yet. You'll want to when you reach a certain last level swimming section, which doesn't seem to play nice with you on the newer art style, and in general will viciously it'll make you want to break your controller. Audio. The audio has been bumped up substantially in the remake with remixes of the old tunes that sound awesome. It's amazing to compare and contrast the remake's music with the original chiptunes, as you really get to see how creative the original composers were with the limitations they had, especially when you hear the remakes renditions of these older scores. Downsides. The main downside of this game isn't the difficulty, isn't the length, it's the controls. Even though this game is marketed as having improved and tighter controls compared to the original, I find that to be incredibly inaccurate because the controls are just as slippery and sluggish now as they were when I played the original on the Sega Master System. Platforming can be an absolute nightmare given how imprecise moving and jumping can feel, especially if you need to make consecutive leaps of faith. Thankfully, the levels are all rather short and can be completed without too much hassle. The other issue I have with the controls is the input lag, which plagued the original game as well, as there are times when I'm wanting to run or attack in a certain direction only to have Alex not do so and end up costing me a life. Like, it's strange how he'll just strangely turn around and face the other direction, which I don't understand. Like, if I'm jumping and I'm facing left, and as soon as I land, if I press attack, he's going to face right, and vice versa for the other way. And I don't understand why this was not fixed in the code. This game is essentially the same game as the 1986 original. It's literally the source code. Okay, maybe it's not the source code, but it's literally the same game with new graphics layered over the top of it. And there are aspects of the game that function well for the new graphics, but don't do well for the classic style, and vice versa. So maybe that's where the input latency comes from. I don't know. Like, I've seen, like, especially the last part of the game after you beat the final boss, if you go through that with the classic art style, it's a lot easier to get through. If you do it with the new art style, good luck to you. I feel like I was honestly expecting them to do more with this title, like, you know, the Wonder Boy games, like Dragon's Trap, like Monster Boy, like Aisha and Monster World. Like, I was expecting more than just improved graphics, but I don't know. Aside from that, I have no real complaints with this game. The wrap up. This is a strange one for me, as on one hand, I enjoyed my time with this game and how it made me nostalgic for what was essentially a game from my childhood. On the other hand, I didn't enjoy how brutal the game was and how it made no effort to change up some things that were in desperate need of some quality of life fixes. This is a game for those curious about games of yesteryear and may not have a method of playing them otherwise, as well as those who grew up with the game and want to relive their childhood years again with the game. Alex Kidd in Miracle World DX is a fun little romp and blast from the past brought to the new era with a new coat of paint, except for when you aren't fighting with the controls. If you're patient and are looking for a new game to dive into, then you can't go wrong with this game. For all others, this may not be worth $20 when you have better games available, such as Wonder Boy, Aisha and Monster World, Monster Boy, and Wonder Boy in the Dragon's Trap. The verdict? Depends. If you're into older retro games, if you grew up with it, and if you got the cash to spare, buy it. If not, wait for a sale. And that's it. That's a review for Alex Kidd in Miracle World DX. Again, shout out to Murdish Games for sending me over the review copy for the Nintendo Switch. I had an interesting time. Like, I went between loving it and hating it, and, well, it's just, I think that's just like, it comes with the territory of playing classic games, especially when a lot of these classic games are brought back to the modern era with very little in the way of changes. You get to appreciate it for the time in which it came out, but then there are modern conveniences that you're kind of like, ugh. So one thing I will say about this game back when it originally came out that really stands the test of time is the fact that the checkpointing system doesn't put you all the way at the beginning of the level if you die once. Like, it puts you relatively close to where you died, which, you know, safe to say, other games that came out in that era didn't really do that. So that's Sega being a pioneer in an area that you wouldn't really expect them to be. But yeah, that's my thoughts. I enjoyed the game and I hated the game at the same time. But what do you think? Are you a fan of the Alex Kidd games? Did you grow up with them? Are you a newer generation gamer that's interested in some of the games from yesteryear? Whatever your thoughts are, let's get the conversation going down below in the comment section. If you want to take it further, we do have Discord as well as Guilded. Links for those are down in the description below. And if you want to pick up a copy of this game on either the Switch, PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X or S or 1, all those links are down below as well. That being said, I'm Mekel Kasanova, Hawaii content creator. I hope you had a great one. If you did, make sure you sub to the channel and ding the notification bell. That way you stay up to date on all the latest greatest content that comes from this channel. I'll be signing off now, and I hope you have an aloha rest of your day. Deuces wow, too sweet, be the elite. I'll see you on the next one. Peace. Mahalo for making it to the end of the video. I really appreciate your support by those of you who like the videos, who watch them, who subscribe. And for those of you who are my Patreon supporters, thank you for your continued support because you help make this possible. If you enjoy my work and you'd like to support what we do have Patreon on patreon.com/Mekel Kasanova. We also have Coffee as well as Subscribestar. So there's various methods if you want to support the work that we do here. We also have channel membership, so make sure you check that out. That way you get up to date on all the latest and greatest content that comes here, and first and exclusive content as well. And if you enjoy the work that I do and you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. So with that being said, Mekel Kasanova, Hawaii content creator. I hope to see you on the next one. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button and ding the notification bell. And all that being said, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.